So for this evening, you have your groups. Huh?
Not recording.
No.
Yeah, we're recording.
Gonna sing?
Wait, that's okay. They're just photons. They'll go away. So this evening for your, you do have study groups this evening. In the first part of your study group, for a little while, your assistants are going to talk with you about the modeling project, what it is you'll be doing in your modeling project and what's expected. And then at a subsequent time, early next week, like on Monday, you'll have a chance then to ask some more questions about it. They'll tell you about that this evening. After you're done with that short time, you're done with your study group and you're free to do what I want you to do, which is I want you to take as much information as you have, but that I don't mean all the information you have, but as many of the boxes as you've got taken care of. I want you to create a cleaned up array, experiential array, that you will use tomorrow to introduce what you learned from your exemplar to somebody else. Okay, so just take some time to look at it. And one of the things I want you to be looking at it as you fill in this array is, well, what's really essential here? What captures the significant patterns of what this person does? And that's what I want to get into the array. If it's one word, it's one word. If it's a whole slew of words, then it's a whole slew of words. I don't have any rules about how much. I'm only interested that whatever is there works in terms of conveying what it is this person does, the structure of what this person does. To me, a door laid on 2 orange crates is just as much a table as a Louis XIV engraved table with inlaid precious stones. It's no more a table than a door on 2 orange crates. They both are tables to me. Hey, I'll put mine on. You can put them on either of them.
Do you want it on an A4 format or on a poster format?
No, put it on just a regular piece of paper. And if it takes more than one piece of paper, it takes more. You put it on more than one piece of paper. In that they have.
Yes, in the manual.
So you've got some blanks in there if you need them. But I'm well aware that the array is more of a conceptual tool. Those boxes definitely are not always big enough to accommodate what you want to put in them, and that's. It is a good guideline. It is a good guideline. Right. I guess that's it. That's all I want to say for now. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. Study group begins 7:30 and it takes place at Beaver Village Conference Center, where the postmaster is located over the day. So we'll come together there. I'll give a short outlook about what this modeling project is, concerning certification, concerning NLP Comprehensive, why we do it, in what way we do it. And the coaches will be present to talk to you if you have questions. And that'll take something like half an hour. After that half an hour, you can decide either to stay there in the conference room and to talk to whoever is there, or you can do whatever comes after that to fill out your array at home. At least one coach will be there in the room for you as long as there are people, so you can always put questions. But that's it for today. So it'll be a formal half an hour, and after that you're free to do whatever you want to do.
And by the way, if you didn't finish your arrays for this afternoon, you obviously could use that time this evening to finish out your work with the person you're working with. Fine. Yeah, unlock.
I have a question. While we were keep it as a, I didn't know, either contributing or supporting belief. When was the other? I wasn't sure.
Well, it doesn't sound like I'm just going to guess that this is not a contributing factor, that I'm congruent and walk my talk. That's probably something that's got to be in there for this to work.
That's why I put it on the list, because I was thinking.
Right. Right, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. Okay, so, well. Huh? Boy, how about that array, huh? What a lot of stuff, huh? How about that array? Yeah. Well, you all know about Christmas, right? That's one of my favorite holidays, Christmas. I love Christmas. You get presents, and you get to give presents. I love that. And there was this boy who was in love with Christmas. He just loved it because he loved getting all the things he wanted. And he was a pretty smart young man. He understood where Christmas presents really came from. And so each year he would make out a list to Santa Claus and then make sure his parents got to see that list so that he would be sure to get the things he wanted. One Christmas, he had a nice, big, long list, and he had given it to his parents to send to Santa Claus for him. And when Christmas morning came, he was very excited. As soon as the sun started coming up, boy, he was awake, and he was very excited because he knew he had a good list, so he was going to have a good Christmas. And he rushed down the hall and woke up his parents and said, "Come on, let's see what Santa brought," and dragged them downstairs, And they came stumbling downstairs, and he dove under the Christmas tree, and he's, pushing aside packages looking for ones with his name on there. He's pushing them aside, and all of that joy and excitement is starting to drain out of him because he can't find any presents with his name on there. And finally, he sits down in kind of a funk. His dad says, "What's the matter?" He says, "There's nothing under the tree for me." And his dad says, "Well, look over there behind the tree. You'll find something." And he gets up and he looks over behind the tree, and there's this big package. It's the biggest package. And it's got his name on it. And he drags it out from behind the tree. It's very heavy, and he clangs it down onto the floor. And he very excitedly starts tearing off the paper, wondering what it was on his list that was so heavy and big. He didn't remember anything like that. And he tears off the paper, and he looks down, and what he's looking at is an erector set. But he didn't ask for an erector set. Do you know a Meccano set? It's a Meccano set if you're outside the United States. In the United States, it's an erector set. And he's looking at it, and he says, "What's this?" He said, "I didn't ask for this." And his father said, "Don't you realize that's the biggest, best, most expensive erector set you can buy?" And the boy said, "It is? And it's mine? That's great!" And he picks it up and he carries it upstairs. It's very heavy. And he takes it upstairs to his bedroom. He's going to play with it. And he sits down on the bed and he puts it down on the bed next to him. And he opens it up and he looks inside. And he's staring in there and he's staring in there. And it's just a mess in there. It's just a big metal box filled with all these pieces. Pieces of metal and struts and screws and nuts and bolts and pulleys and wheels and motors and all kinds of stuff. And he's looking in this box full of pieces of metal and he's going, "What am I going to do with this junk?" And he closes it up and he puts it on the table next to his bed and says, "Boy, what a crummy Christmas I had." Well, that night he's asleep and he's awakened by a sound in his room. And he looks up from the covers, and there he sees creeping across the room, just like this, is this big fat man in a big red suit, with big black boots. white beard, red cap, and he's creeping across the room, heading for the erector set. And the boy sits up and says, "Hey, you're Santa Claus." And the guy says, no, you're having a dream, kid. Go back to sleep." The boy says, no, you're Santa Claus, aren't you? He says, yeah, you're right, kid, you're right. Just go back to sleep. He says, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I made a mistake, and I just came to correct my mistake." And he went over and he picked up the erector set and he started walking off with it. And the boy says, "Hey, wait a minute, where are you going with my erector set?" Santa Claus says, I made a mistake. This really wasn't for you, and I'm taking it back." The boy says, "You can't take that back. That's my erector set. Do you realize that's the biggest, best, most expensive erector set you can buy? Do you know what that's worth?" And Santa said, "Yeah, I know exactly what it's worth. I made a mistake and I'm correcting it." And all of a sudden, boop, he disappeared with the erector set. And the boy sitting in the bed said, "I can't believe it. Santa Claus just stole my Christmas present. Now I've got nothing for Christmas." All of a sudden he heard another little boop in the room. He looked up, and there, floating in the air over the table, was a pad of paper and a pencil. And it hung there for a moment, then it sat down on the table. Well, the next morning when the boy woke up, he sat up and said, "Phew, what a dream I had last night." And he looked over on the table, and the erector set was gone. And there was just a pad of paper and a pencil sitting there. And the boy said, "Oh my God, Santa Claus really did steal my Christmas present. And I can't tell anybody about this. They'll think I'm crazy." I had the worst Christmas that a kid ever had in history. Well, the rest of that day, everything went wrong with him. He went to the park to play baseball, and he broke his bat in the first ball. Then his ball went down the sewer, and he lost it. When he came home, he realized he left his glove at the park. And when he ran back to find it, it was gone. Somebody had taken it. He tried to play basketball, and a car ran over the ball and squashed it. He tried to play football, and the dog next door chewed it up. His kite got torn up in a tree. He thought he'd play with some of his puzzles, but the puzzles were all missing pieces, so he couldn't do any of them. He tried to play some of his games. They were all missing pieces. He got out one of his models, his plastic models to make. First thing that happened was he squeezed the tube of glue too hard, and it squeezed glue all over the plastic and melted it into a big blob. Pretty soon, within a couple of 3 days, every toy that he had was either broken, lost, or missing pieces. And he's sitting on his bed going, "I've got nothing to do." He looked over at that pad of paper and pencil, and out of desperation, he picked it up and he opened up the pad and he took the pencil and he just drew a picture on there. And it was just some ugly thing. And he tore it off and threw it on the floor. And then he drew another ugly picture and he tore it off and threw it on the floor. And he drew another ugly picture and tore it off and threw it on the floor. Until he had a pretty good pile of ugly pictures on the floor. And then he was just about to draw another ugly picture. And before he started to draw it this time, he decided, well, maybe I'll try and draw this a little bit better. And he thought about what he wanted to draw. And he drew it. And he noticed it was a little bit better than all those ugly pictures that were on the floor. So he tore that off, threw it on the floor, and he went to draw another one. And this time, before he started drawing, he really thought about what he was going to draw. And he drew it a little more carefully, and it was better. He tore that off, and he drew another, and he drew another. And then there came a point where he was going to draw a picture. And he thought about what he wanted to draw, and he could see it on the page. It wasn't actually there, but he could see it on the page. And he drew just what he saw on the page, and it was good. And he said, hey, I'm pretty good at this. And the moment he said that, all of a sudden there was a whoop in the room. And he looked up, and there, floating in the air, was the erector set. And it just floated up there for a moment, and then it went crashed down onto the floor. As soon as it crashed down onto the floor, parents called up from upstairs. "Hey, what are you doing up there?" He said, "Nothing." He went over and he picked up his erector set. He put it on the bed, and he opened it up and he looked inside. And this time when he looked in there, he saw bridges and airplanes. He saw trucks and tractors. He saw buildings of every kind. He saw boats. He saw hundreds and hundreds of different things. And he proceeded to build every one of the ones that he saw there. So see you in the morning, 9 o'clock. Have a nice evening.